Hello, my name is Caleb Lalonde, and for my teaching project, I'm just going to explain 3 processes that I had absolutely no clue about before I took this class. So during this video, I'm just going to label some structures and show the pathway of what we learned in chapter 47, 44, and 43, which is food in the digestive system, blood in the heart, and light or sight in the eye. So I'm just going to start here with the digestive system and how food gets processed through it. So for our fetal pig lab, we had obviously a pig, and we did the digestive system. So I'm just going to label some structures here. So you have food, which goes into the mouth here, and the first thing that happens is the animal chews food and carbohydrates begin to break down. So breakdown of carbohydrates in here, carbs. So food moves past here, the hard palate, the soft palate, into the pharynx, which is this region here. The epiglottis closes over the trachea, and food moves down here. And as it goes through the esophagus, it enters the stomach in stages with sphincters, because the esophagus has sphincters. So as it enters the stomach, this is supposed to say carbs. As it enters the stomach, the breakdown of proteins and carbs take place here in the stomach. Eventually, this gets moved into the duodenum, and the food that's broken down here, the proteins and the carbs that are just totally broken down here, is called chyme. So in the duodenum we have chyme, and chyme eventually in the duodenum, this is when fats or bile with the gallbladder actually starts to, stored in the gallbladder from the liver, bile starts to go into the duodenum, and pancreas also releases enzymes that actually digest fats. So you have the digestion of fats here by the pancreas and the liver from bile in the duodenum. And then here you have the breakdown of proteins in the stomach. And up here you have a lot of breakdown of carbs. So pretty much most of the digestion here takes place in the duodenum. It absorbs a lot of fats, some things like alcohol, and then it propels it through the small intestine. This really weird stringy part that I drew, this is actually the small intestine. Move it up here. And the small intestine just really absorbs whatever remainder nutrients that has and puts it in the bloodstream. So after that, we go through here, we go into the large intestine. This is the cecum. And through the cecum, right, we have the large intestine, where any remaining nutrients or water is absorbed into your body, and this is where feces is really formed here. But bile gives the food its brown color, right, from poop, so or feces. So bacteria, your gut bacteria, that would be here in the large intestine. So you feed your gut bacteria by eating healthy food, so that's important. And then we come out here to the anus and the rectum, and then it's expelled here. So that's the digestive system. Um, it was very complicated for me at first, but it really, when you break it down, like, okay, so you have the digestion of carbs here. It moves down. It just goes through processes. So you have here breakdown of proteins, and they all have specific enzymes, but I'm just trying to just show the pathway here. So that's the digestive system that we learned from the fetal pig in the fetal pig lab. The next thing I'm actually going to show is the mammalian circulatory system here. So this is the heart, and what happens with the heart is you have in humans it would be the superior vena cava, which is number 1 here, and then down here you would have the inferior vena cava. But in the fetal pig lab that we did, this is the anterior and this is the posterior. So this is blood from the body. I labeled it. Blood from the body comes into the heart, into the what you would call the right atrium. So this is if we're looking straight at another organism from our point of view. So it comes into the smaller right atrium, goes into the right ventricle after passing this valve right here. This valve is called the tricuspid valve. So tricuspid valve. It's kind of stringy. It has things called chordae tendineae here that connects to it, and it just kind of allows it. Same with this valve over here that I'm going to talk about later. It just allows the blood not to flow back. The valves are very important for blood not to go backward. It closes after it passes through. So there's lots of pressure in these valves. So yeah, they goes through the ventricle, and then it's going to go through the pulmonary trunk. The pulmonary trunk here, so I'm going to write it, pulmonary trunk. Boom. And then this is right here, this is another valve. So there's 2 valves per, like right after the atrium here, there's a valve. And then right after it goes through the ventricle, there's another valve. It's called a semilunar valve, actually called the pulmonary semilunar valve. So I'm just going to write that real quick. So pulmonary semilunar valve. Okay, so it goes through the pulmonary semilunar valve, and it goes through the lungs. And the lungs are shaped a little bit differently because, the heart's over here, blah, blah, blah. But the alveoli, right, it reoxygenates the blood, because this is deoxygenated blood, right, over here, that goes into the right atrium, right ventricle. And it comes back through these veins right here. This is called this is the pulmonary artery or pulmonary trunk, right? And this is called the pulmonary vein. So this contains oxygenated blood, but it's called a vein because it's going back to the heart. It's the only exception in the human body or mammalian body or whatever you want to call it. That's a vein that has oxygenated blood because it goes back to the heart. So it's going to enter through here. It's going to enter through the left atrium. So this is the left atrium. This is kind of the same as this, but it's bigger. So this is called the bicuspid valve, which has chordae tendineae as well, just like over here, connected to papillary muscle. It just really helps to make sure there's no backflow of blood in the heart, because that would be detrimental to the organism. The organism would die. So that's where you get a lot of heart diseases. I know my dog actually has a problem with her bicuspid valve. It's weakening. I think it's the papillary muscle that's not doing so well actually in the heart. So she's going through heart disease right now, and just because she's an old dog. But that's where problems can be caused in a lot older mammals. So after it passes through here, this is the left ventricle, right? This is the left atrium, goes through the left ventricle, comes up through another semilunar valve. So this is called the aortic semilunar valve. And after the aortic semilunar valve, it's just going to go straight to the body through this giant artery here is the aorta. So that's the flow of blood in the heart. Not too complicated, but I didn't know this before, you know. So it's really nice to be able to remember this and to be able to teach it. So let's get to the next one. So the last one here I have is eye. So we did a cow eye in our lab, and light essentially passes here through the cornea. This is the anterior chamber of the eye. This is the posterior chamber of the eye. This is the sclera, which is really dense connective tissue that surrounds the eye and protects the eye. This is the iris here, which controls the size of the pupil. So this is the iris, right? So if it's really bright out, it's going to be small. That's why our pupils are small. If it's really dark, we're going to want to see more. So our iris is going to open up our pupil, and then more light's going to pass through. So we have their pupil like right here. This is the lens here. In the posterior chamber, there's a very, very thick fluid called the vitreous humor. So contains vitreous humor, and essentially light focuses here on what this, I drew this green part. This green part's supposed to be the retina. Focuses on the retina. And yeah, I mean, that's where cones and rods are, and where signal transduction takes place. So it hits the back and it moves forward, and it comes out this optic nerve here, and that's how we see it. It goes to our brain. So yeah, this one's kind of simple. If we look at the cow eye and not the human eye, they have some other features, such as the tapetum lucidum, which is like a color part that kind of reflects light a little bit. I think that's probably what makes them not see as well. But humans don't have that, so I'm just speculating. But yep, so this is the cornea. Yeah, so that's how 3 processes work. This is the optic disc here. And yeah, so I learned a lot from this semester, and I really never knew about these processes and in the parts. And it's just really nice because I've never learned about it before. So thanks for watching, and have a good day.